She's not your daughter. Don't correct her. That one sentence, spoken so casually in our own kitchen, ended 6 years of me paying every single bill in this house. 6 years of groceries, school fees, phone bills, doctor's visits, birthday parties, and college savings, gone from my responsibility in the space of one afternoon. By the end of this story, you'll understand exactly why I let it all fall apart, and why I did it completely on purpose. This isn't a story about anger. It's a story about finally understanding my own worth. If you've ever been told in your own home that you don't have the right to protect what you built, stay until the end. This one's for you. My name doesn't matter. What matters is the house I helped build, the family I helped raise, and the paycheck that quietly kept it all running for 6 long years without anyone ever really noticing. When I married Daniel, his daughter Mia was 11 years old. Her biological mother had left when Mia was only 6, and Daniel had spent 5 years raising her mostly on his own, exhausted, overworked, and doing his best. I didn't come into that family trying to replace anyone. I never once called myself her mother, not to her face, not even in my own head. I called myself the person who packed her lunch every single morning before school. I was the one who sat up with her through fevers at 2 a.m, who signed permission slips, who paid for her school trips, because Daniel's paycheck barely covered the mortgage payment each month. For 6 years, my salary quietly covered almost everything outside of that mortgage: groceries, Mia's school fees, her phone bill, her clothes, her extracurricular activities, and a college fund I had started building the year she turned 12. Daniel's income covered the house payment and little else. That arrangement was never something we sat down and discussed properly. It simply happened, the way responsibilities often do in a household, quietly, without anyone keeping score. And honestly, I didn't mind. I loved that girl the way you love someone you've watched grow up in front of you. Comment below and let me know. Where are you watching this story from tonight? I always love seeing where this community is tuning in from. Mia turned 17, and something in the house shifted in a way I couldn't quite name at first. She started coming home later than she used to. She stopped doing the small chores she'd always handled without complaint. Her tone, when she spoke to me, grew sharper. Not just typical teenage moodiness, but something closer to dismissal, like I had somehow become less important than I used to be. One night, she left a full sink of dirty dishes untouched for 3 days straight. I asked her calmly, without any accusation in my voice, to please clean up after herself. She rolled her eyes and said, "You're not my mom. You can't tell me what to do." I let it go that time. Teenagers say things they don't fully mean, but it kept happening, again and again. She stopped saying thank you for the things I quietly paid for every month. She stopped even acknowledging that I existed in the house at all, unless she needed something from me, a ride, money, or a signature on a form. There was a night not long after that when I made her favorite dinner, chicken parmesan, the exact recipe I had made for her birthday every single year since she turned 12. She didn't come downstairs to eat it. She stayed upstairs with her phone, and when I gently knocked on her door to tell her the food was ready, she said, through the closed door, "I'm not hungry," in a tone that made it painfully clear she wasn't talking about the food at all. Then one evening, I asked her again, gently, without any edge in my voice, to please pick up her things scattered across the living room floor. Daniel walked in halfway through that simple, ordinary request. And instead of backing me up, the way a husband should back up his wife in her own home, he pulled me quietly into the kitchen. "She's not your daughter," he said, his voice flat and final. "Don't correct her like that." I stood there for a second, waiting for him to laugh, waiting for him to say he didn't mean it, that it had come out wrong. He didn't. The silence between us stretched long enough that I understood with complete clarity that he meant every word. "I've raised her for 6 years, Daniel," I said, my voice shaking despite my best effort to stay calm. "I've been in this house every single day while you were at work. Every fever, every heartbreak, every school project finished at midnight. That was me standing in that gap." He just looked away toward the window and said, "That doesn't make you her mother?" As if 6 years of quietly showing up day after day meant absolutely nothing at all. Has anyone else ever had a partner take someone else's side over yours in your own home after everything you've given? Type yes below if you know exactly what this feels like. I want to see how many of you understand this without me having to explain it any further. I didn't yell that night. I didn't cry in front of him either, though I desperately wanted to. Instead, I walked upstairs, sat down slowly on the edge of our bed, and made a decision so calm and so clear that it almost frightened me. If I'm not her mother, then I am not her bank account either. The next morning, before I had even finished my coffee, I canceled the auto payment I had set up years earlier for Mia's phone bill. I stopped the monthly transfer into her college fund, the one I had been quietly building since she was 12 years old. I called the school and told them, politely but firmly, that I would no longer be covering her extracurricular fees, that Daniel would need to take over that responsibility going forward. I didn't announce any of it. I didn't make a scene, didn't slam a single door, didn't say a single dramatic word to either of them. I simply stopped. Quietly, completely, and without asking anyone's permission to do so. People who've heard this story keep asking me if it felt cruel to do that to a 17-year-old girl. Honestly, it didn't. It felt like finally setting down something impossibly heavy that I had been carrying alone for years, without a single person in that house ever noticing the weight of it, let alone thanking me for carrying it. 3 weeks later, Mia's phone got disconnected in the middle of a school day. She came home furious, screaming at Daniel, demanding to know why he had let this happen to her. Daniel, completely confused, came to find me and asked why the payment hadn't gone through like it always had. I looked at him steadily and said one sentence, the same one he had used against me weeks earlier. "She's not my daughter. I don't have to correct her, and I don't have to pay for her either." He opened his mouth to argue, then closed it again just as quickly. For the first time in 6 years of marriage, my husband didn't have a single response ready. If you were standing in my position that morning, would you have done exactly the same thing? Or would you have handled it a different way entirely? Let me know in the comments below. I genuinely read every single one of them. Daniel was furious with me for days afterward. He accused me of being petty, of punishing an innocent teenage girl over an argument that in his mind had nothing at all to do with her. I told him calmly, without raising my voice even once, that this was never actually about Mia. It was about being told in my own home by my own husband that I had no authority whatsoever to ask for basic respect under my own roof. For the first time in years, Daniel had to actually sit down and budget his own income carefully. He had to explain to his daughter, in real terms, why there suddenly wasn't extra money for a school trip she wanted to take. He had to explain why her phone plan had been downgraded to something far more basic, and why the savings account she had always assumed was steadily growing for her future college education had quietly, completely stopped moving. One particular evening, Mia confronted me directly in the kitchen, her arms crossed tightly, echoing her father's exact words back at me like a rehearsed script. "You're not my mom," she said. "You don't get to punish me like this." I set down the dish towel I was holding, looked her directly in the eyes, and said, "You're right. I'm not your mom, and I'm not your accountant either." She didn't have a single response ready for that. She simply turned and walked away. For the first time in her life, Mia started genuinely asking questions. Why had things always seemed so easy before, without any visible effort? Who exactly had been quietly paying for the comfortable life she had always taken completely for granted? Slowly, without me ever saying a single directly accusing word to her, she began piecing the truth together entirely on her own, one small realization at a time. Are you the type of person who confronts difficult situations head-on and directly? Or do you generally prefer to let your actions speak louder than any words ever could? Drop a comment below. I'm genuinely curious how each of you would have handled a fallout like this one. 2 full months passed before anything really changed between us. Then one quiet evening, Mia knocked softly on my bedroom door. Not Daniel's home office, where she usually went when something was bothering her. My door? For the very first time in years. She didn't apologize outright, not in so many words. Teenagers rarely do, even when they genuinely mean it. But she asked quietly if we could talk for a few minutes. She said she hadn't fully realized just how much I had actually been doing for her, quietly, in the background, for years without asking for any credit at all. She said she was sorry for the dishes left in the sink, for the sharp comments, for the countless small ways she had spent years pretending I wasn't truly part of the family she came home to every single evening. She told me something that genuinely surprised me. She said she had found old college fund statements tucked away in Daniel's desk drawer. Years of steady deposits, every single one traced directly back to my own personal account, going all the way back to when she was only 11 years old. "I didn't know it was you," she said quietly, her voice unsteady. "This whole time, I just thought it was there automatically, like it happened on its own." It had genuinely never occurred to her that automatic, invisible things like that only happen because someone shows up month after month, year after year, without ever once asking for recognition or thanks. Daniel eventually apologized as well, though it took him considerably longer than it took his daughter. He admitted quietly and somewhat reluctantly that he had spoken without thinking that day in the kitchen. He said that in trying so hard to protect his daughter's feelings in the moment, he had completely forgotten to protect his own wife's basic dignity in her own home. I didn't go back to paying for absolutely everything the way I used to. Not entirely. Some things stayed changed for good permanently, because respect, once you're forced to fight that hard just to receive it, should never again be handed out completely free of charge. I still love that girl deeply and unconditionally, the same way I always have. I still love my husband too, despite everything that happened between us that year. But now, love inside this particular house comes with clearly defined boundaries, and those boundaries come with real, lasting consequences when they're crossed. If someone in your own life ever tells you that you have absolutely no right to protect your own home, believe them completely the very first time they say it out loud, and then let your actions, not your words, do all of the talking from that moment forward. If this particular story hit close to home for you tonight, I want you to tell me honestly in the comments below. Have you ever had to quietly stop paying, whether that meant financially or emotionally, for someone in your life who never truly respected your place within it? Subscribe for more real, honest stories exactly like this one, dropping here every single day without fail. I will see you again very soon in the very next story.